Hi, everyone at the Game Sound Conference. My name is Justin Leo Kennedy,
And I'm Gil Dori.
and this is our presentation on 8-bit dynamic notification sound effects. In the first part of this presentation, we will discuss the frame of our research, which builds upon the work of Karen Collins, R. Murray Schafer, and Ute Yekosh. After that, Gil and I will go through our 8-bit sound effects taxonomy, in other words, how we categorized and analyzed these sounds. Then we will recreate these effects. I will do this in a digital audio workstation, while Gil will demonstrate a sound design tool he made in Pure Data. Finally, we will give our conclusive thoughts on the research we conducted. One of the most important concepts with regard to the frame of our research is Karen Collins' definition of the term dynamic audio. Before defining dynamic audio, it's best to discuss two other terms. The first of these is interactive audio, which refers to sound events that react to a player's direct input. So if you press the jump button, you hear Mario's jumping sound. The second term to be familiar with is adaptive audio. Adaptive audio is sound that reacts to the state of the game, such as a time in, time out, or player health update. Dynamic audio, then, is, according to Collins, used to encompass both interactive and adaptive audio. Dynamic audio reacts to both changes in the gameplay environment and/or to actions taken by the player. So if you're playing Metroid and you have low health, then there is a beeping sound to let you know that your health is low. This particular example is an instance of adaptive audio, but Gil and I are using the larger term dynamic audio to encompass interactive and adaptive sounds when categorizing notification sound effects. Another important component of our research comes from R. Murray Schafer's book, The Soundscape. I really like these four categorizations of sound. Acoustics is the science of sound, it's what sounds are. Psychoacoustics is the study of how sound is perceived, especially in a physiological sense. Semantics is how we interpret the communicative meaning of sound, and aesthetics relates to how a sound might make us feel. In this presentation, we are going to concentrate primarily on acoustics and semantics, less so on psychoacoustics, and only minimally on aesthetics. Let's dive deeper into the meaning of sound and the role sound designers play. Ute Yekosh states that sound designers are engineers of communication. She also says that semiotics is a scientific discipline which deals with signs. According to Yekosh, people need background knowledge to know what these signs mean. Take a traffic light as an example. A person needs some background knowledge to know what each color means. Yekosh also suggests an understanding of semiotics will increase the effectiveness of one's sound design. Now that we've established the framework of our research, we'll go through our effects taxonomy. For that, I turn it over to my good friend, Gil.
The coin pickup effect is very simple in terms of musical gesture, but it demonstrates clearly the concept of semiotics within dynamic notification effects. Let's hear some of the most famous coin pickup effects from Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. We could hear that the sound characteristics of this effect are very straightforward. Even more elaborate coin pickup effects still show the same characteristics, as with Alex Kidd in Miracle World. In any case, the sound is very effective in communicating the semantic, affective, and aesthetic meanings. Let's listen to some pause notification effects and think, what can they communicate? First, from Metal Gear Solid, which is the same one as in Castlevania, and Mega Man. The most notable aspect of this gesture is the arpeggiated chord with its fast rhythm pattern. Here, background knowledge is important for understanding the signal, as it relates to announcement chimes in public places such as airports and shopping centers. These are often signaled with an arpeggiated sound like so. The social convention says that when you hear the announcement sound, you're supposed to pause what you're currently doing and pay attention to something else. In the game, while the player controls when to pause, it is a similar action and therefore a similar sound. The one-up and power-up notification effects also feature a pleasing ascending gesture, as in Arkanoid, Mega Man, and Super Mario Bros. We will not go into this type of notification effect, but it is important to mention, as semiotically it is strongly tied to the defeat sound effect, which we will discuss in detail next.
Now we will discuss sound effects related to defeat. In some games, a player with low health will hear a notifying beeping sound. These short, high-pitched notes sound similar to an EKG machine. Let's look at this clip from Metroid as an example. In that clip, the low health notification is followed by a defeat sound, which Gil and I classify as chromatic descent. Video games of the 8-bit era commonly used downward chromatic passages to communicate defeat. Let's listen to a couple other examples. First, from The Legend of Zelda. And now, from Castlevania 1. Chromatic descent was a frequently used sound effect, but another defeat notification also emerged during the 8-bit era. The echoing defeat sound has a unique formula as it pertains to synthesis. It commonly uses pulse waves with rapid pitch bending on nearly every note. The notes played are often very fast arpeggiations of diminished chords or chords that feature tritones but are not necessarily diminished. However, these chords get arpeggiated so quickly that we just hear them as a sound cluster. Also very important is the amplitude envelope, which steps down gradually with each repeated pattern to create a fade-out effect. Let's watch this clip from Mega Man. Observe how well the echoing effect matches the defeat animation. Now let's watch this clip from Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. Notice how the echoing effect does not quite match the defeat animation. What's historically interesting is the Castlevania and Zelda franchises used the echoing effect for their sequel games, but then pivoted back to chromatic descent in subsequent releases. On the other hand, franchises like Mega Man and Arkanoid stuck with the echoing effect. As such, I hypothesize that certain defeat animations become inseparable from their sound effects, so much so that these combinations become part of a franchise's very identity. I'm now going to recreate some 8-bit notification sound effects in Ableton Live, but this can be done in any digital audio workstation. I'll use a free plugin named Magical 8-bit by a developer who goes by the name YMCK. Here's a link to that plugin. The first sound effect I'm going to make is a pause sound. I'll use a triangle waveform on track 2 with default ADSR settings. Now I'm going to make a low health sound. I'll disarm track 2 and arm track 1. Again, I'm using Magical 8-bit, but this time the oscillator is a square wave. Next up is a chromatic defeat sound. I'll arm tracks 1 and 2. I'll also turn on a MIDI transposition plugin on track 2, which will sound my triangle wave down a minor third from my square wave. This will give me parallel minor thirds when I play my keyboard. I'll also use a fader on my MIDI controller to turn up the depth of my square wave's vibrato on the final note. Now for the echoing defeat sound. The process of creating this sound takes much longer than the other three, at least when using a DAW. First thing I need to do is change the tempo to 240 because I need the notes to go by very fast upon playback. Now to add magical 8-bit to track 1. The default oscillator is a pulse wave with a duty cycle of 12.5%. I'll widen this and change it to 25%. After that, I'll change the number box next to the word poly from 8 to 1, making this a monophonic synthesizer rather than a polyphonic one. The default ADSR is fine, but the pitch bend needs to be set at 12 semitones instead of 2. Since I'm not going to use the other features, I'll set their values at 0 and leave the initial pitch parameter where it is. Now to create my MIDI clip and rename it Channel 1. Next, I'll turn off loops so the effect doesn't keep repeating, and I'll set the clip to last exactly 6 quarter notes in length. After that, I'll switch views from my envelope box to my piano roll. The grid of my piano roll is set to 16ths, but I'm going to change it to 64th notes, and also adjust the zoom settings of my piano roll. Next, I'll input this repeating pattern of an F-sharp fully diminished 7 chord with a raised third. In this case, the exact name and harmonic function of the chord doesn't matter. What matters is the dissonant sonority, which communicates defeat. The notes will play back so fast and the pitch bend will be so rapid that we won't really hear this as a functional chord, but rather as a sound cluster with a generally dissonant quality. Now it's time to draw the envelope for the pitch bends. You'll notice me setting anchor points at 0 first. This is because I want to preserve the chord's dissonant sonority. I'm achieving this preservation by repeatedly returning the pitch bend to a transposition of 0, and this makes a difference even if I'm only returning to 0 for a handful of milliseconds. Once my anchor points are set, I can draw my pitch bends. I'm going to make the envelope get a little shallower with each bend, even though this is not a requisite for achieving the echoing defeat sound. Once I finish drawing my bends, it's time to copy and paste the envelope and put it on each repeating pattern. On the final pattern, I'll alter the end of the envelope and give the sound a sense of finality. I'll do this by flattening out the shape at the end, which is a common way to finish a pitch bend envelope of an echoing defeat sound. It's now time to draw the amplitude envelope, which I will do by automating the gain of magical 8-bit. I'm going to gradually step down the amplitude here, and this will add to the pulsating quality of the sound. Here, I'm maintaining the amplitude for the first 3 notes and stepping down the gain on the last note, which mimics the way an echo fades into the distance. You'll notice my first 2 slopes are quite steep, and then the slopes get shallower. This is because I want to convey an echo to the listener right away, so he, she, or they will perceive an echo-like fade for the duration of the sound. Next, I'll duplicate track 1. I'm going to slightly raise the pitch bend for the second note of track 2 just to give my sound effect a tiny bit more dissonance. After I do that, I'll copy and paste my altered envelope. But when I get to the end of this, I'm actually going to manually raise the pitch bend for the second note of the final pattern since I don't want to mess up the shape at the tail end. Now I double check the amplitude envelope and then change the duty cycle of track 2 to 50% so I have a square wave. And now the sound is complete. Before hearing it, let's first refresh our memories and listen to the sounds that served as our models. So that was a pretty lengthy process to get just one short little sound. This is why I'm really excited about Gil's 8-bit gesture maker, which is designed to make the 8-bit sound effect creation process quicker. And now Gil is going to tell you a little bit more about it.
8-bit gesture maker is a pure data tool developed for this research. Its purpose is to create 8-bit style effects by drawing the gesture and shape of the sound. It provides a fast and easy way for creating complex 8-bit style effects. In addition, the tool includes automatic effect generators based on effect characteristics we identified in this research. This is what the 8-bit gesture maker looks like. I will start by drawing the gesture of the sound, maybe something that swoops up and has a wobble in the end, and I can set the amplitude envelope of the sound the same way, something like that. Then I can set the sound itself, the timbre. Maybe start with a triangle wave and a square wave, and then I will turn up the volume of each channel in the mixer. Finally, I will set the duration, and when I press play, we will hear the sound. Maybe I can make it a bit longer, so we will hear the wobble in the end more clearly. I can also add other elements, like a pulse wave, and I want the pulse wave to have a pitch bend of a fifth going up, and I will set the duration of the pitch bend for half of the duration of the whole sound. And then I'm going to transpose the square wave by a major third. And now I will add the pulse wave to the mix, and when I play the sound, it will sound like that. This way we can create fairly complex 8-bit style effects using very simple means. I can also clear everything and use the presets or automatic effect generators to create the sounds. For example, the coin gesture generator. Of course, it will sound much better by adjusting the timbre and duration, but I don't want to do it right now. This is the pause effect generator, and again, could sound better with adjustments. And finally, the echoing the feet gesture generator. Here too, adjustments are welcome, maybe for the duration, but that's pretty much it. There are other functions, such as the global transposition and pitch bend. It is also possible to change the gesture array settings and input notes manually. Also to save gesture and amplitude to text files and to load content from text files. And to record an audio file. Some of the notification effects recreated with this tool are Super Mario Bros. Coin Pickup, Arkanoid 1-Up, Mega Man Pause, and Legend of Zelda Chromatic Death.
Well, a conclusive thought I would have is that these patterns are not like a requisite for people to use, but they're there and they're available. And if you want to be able to create a start sound without having to overthink it, then you can just consult this as a reference. And if you want to be innovative and come up with something else for your pause sound or your coin pickup or whatever, that's awesome. Like, I definitely encourage that. But it's good sometimes to have things that are analyzed and just put in a format where you can just reference it and use it if you like.
Yeah, and it's part of the tool, the 8-bit gesture maker, because you can just do like a quick, make a make some effect like really quickly, and then adjust it and change it and really make it yours. And you can either abandon it or just stick to the pattern. But yeah, that's part of the why I think it's really cool.
Well, one thing I was really excited about is at the Game Sound conference last year, Leonard J. Paul gave a presentation on heavy tools and embedding PD vanilla patches inside of Unity for like interactive procedural audio. And I think that that's really cool because people could essentially download your gesture maker and hopefully embed it inside of a Unity project for like real time 8-bit procedural audio.